Welcome to another episode of Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. I am your host, Rondell Donawa, attorney at law, and I'm happy for you to join us once again on this show that discusses the law and you. Today, in this episode, we're doing it a bit different. Now, as you will have seen prior, I would have had numerous lawyers who would have come to discuss different issues and that is affecting you, the citizens. However, in practice, there's a saying, law is a jealous mistress. And sometimes, you wonder, why would practitioners say this? Now, my guest, she is a chartered accountant, but she decided that she wanted to switch to law, leaving a very, very lucrative job and going into the lands then, not knowing what will happen. And I am here to interview her so that she can tell her story and she can give certain advice to those of you who are probably wanting to make a career change to law or maybe just want some inspiration. And I'm speaking about Miss Corene Procope. Just a little bit about her. She is a chartered accountant. She currently lectures finance and accounting at UWI. Imagine she still lectures finance and accounting. And she has multiple experience in the energy and banking sector. She provided support for both the CEOs and the CFOs, which is the Chief Financial Officers. She is a member of the Association of Chartered Accountants, and she's currently in her final year at Hewarding Law School, where she is pursuing the Legal Education Certificate. Now, I don't want to say much because, of course, I want her to tell her story. So, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome Miss Corene Procope, Chartered Accountant and Attorney in Training. Attorney in Training, indeed. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me on that.
Thank you for coming on this program. And of course, for the longest while I've been saying, Corene, I want you on, to discuss your amazing journey and your inspiration to a lot of people, young people and women. Of course, I know you have a lot of your fans watching, so you could probably look at them in the camera there and say hello. And,
hi.
I just want to discuss, who is Corene Procope?
Well, you gave a very good bio. So yes, it's pretty much in a nutshell, a chartered accountant who has made the transition, or who is making the transition into law. As you rightfully said, I guess the desire to learn and taking advantage of the opportunity to pursue a dream. That's really the behind the scenes of Corene Procope.
Now, let's start with you being a chartered accountant. Now, as I would imagine, a chartered accountant would take a number of years to qualify. How much years you would have taken to reach that position?
Well, so I would have completed the education part of the accountancy qualification, which is the ACCA, as you mentioned. It took me 3 years to complete it.
3 years? Wow, some people take 10 or forever.
Yes, I agree. Some people really do take several years. It was actually one of my classes where a bunch of my classmates were discussing how long they have been studying ACCA. And it was in that moment I told myself I don't want to be a 7-year, a 10-year, a 12-year, because that was the number of years some of them were actually expressing that they have been doing the ACCA. And I really made a huge sacrifice. And sacrifice meaning, I would have cut out a lot of social activities in my life to make that opportunity, to take that opportunity to complete it within the number of years that I did.
What age you would have completed that your ACCA at?
So you want to give me my age? So I completed ACCA at age 24.
Wow, okay, impressive.
Yes, but after you finish the education part of ACCA, you still have the professional equivalent requirements.
Yes.
So that is where you have to, acquire a certain amount of hours in order to become a member. So, of course, I would have been working while I was doing ACCA, so I was able to get my supervisor to sign off on it. And that would have allowed me to become a member about 2 or 3 years after I would have gotten the qualification, which was 2015,
All right, and then after ACCA, I know from seeing your CV that you would have had very, very good jobs. Tell us about that experience with what jobs that you would have acquired as a professional accountant.
Yes, so I would have worked at Nilamasi Energy, which is in San Fernando, for about 4 or 5 years. Then I moved on to BG at the point in time. Well, it's now Shell. So I moved on to BG, and I was also an accountant there.
And you were there for a number of years?
Yes, so I was there for 4 years as well. The organization would have done some restructuring, and I would have been impacted at that point in time. And well, I decided I wanted to make the switch from energy, because I would have done energy jobs before, to financial services. Because I tell people at the point in time I was not an energy professional. Right. I was a financial professional. I was an accountant, so I felt as though I can transfer my skills from energy to financial services, and luckily I did. And I moved to Citibank, which is a multinational financial institution in the country. And I spent 4 years there as well. And it was at Citibank is where I decided that I wanted to do law. And it wasn't because like I just woke up one morning and decided I wanted to do law.
Well, I thought so at one point.
No, I actually wanted to do law since CXC time.
Right.
But I would have only done business subjects.
Right.
Then A-level came, and same thing. I was doing, of course, the transition from CXC to A-levels. You will do business. I did business subjects as well, which would have been economics and accounting and stuff.
Like nothing to do with reading.
Exactly.
A plethora of books and stuff like that.
Exactly. So at that point in time, what I was exposed to was that you would have had to do history and literature and those sort of subjects in order to do law. So I put that idea behind my back, like, you know what, maybe I will never be able to pursue law because my background is business.
And that's a myth, eh?
Yeah, well, I realize now that it's really a myth.
Yeah.
And you know, if I had the knowledge or the information back then, I probably would have pursued law immediately.
Because let's look at it in my instance. I did sciences for CXC, and I decided I wanted to be an engineer. And I decided that being involved in public speaking and everything, A-levels, I decided to switch to literature, history, sociology, which was a lot of reading subjects.
Yes.
It was a bit difficult because moving from AdMaths and sciences, as you know, to reading subjects, it's a bit of a transition. So I could attest to what you're saying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if I had the knowledge before, I probably would have taken the route that I eventually took, which is, so of course, you know, in Trinidad and Tobago, we have two routes that people usually take to pursue law. There is the true UE route, and then you move on to Hewarding Law School, and then there is the external route, which is the London schools.
Yes, which many persons do.
Many persons do. And then they move on to either doing the BPTC or the LPC. I sort of did about, you would say like a hybrid of both, because I did do my LLB externally, and I was fortunate to get into Hewarding Law School. And we all have heard the stories of external students getting into Hewarding Law School, how challenging it is, the entrance exam, and how many people have been trying for many years because, you know, the institution is strapped with regards to space.
Now, did you leave your job to pursue law?
Yes, I did.
And to me, that's a huge risk, earning probably 6 figures and leaving your job totally.
Yes.
What propelled you to or compelled you to leave your job? Was it mandatory?
No, it wasn't mandatory. I think I made the moral decision in the sense that I did not want, Hewarding is full-time studies. So what I would have had to do was try to balance Hewarding as well as my job. And I made the decision because I really value relationships. And all of the organizations that I work with, I still have close relationships with my former colleagues. And I thought about that. I thought about, do I want to risk damaging relationships with my colleagues at Citibank by trying to balance both? Because we know trying to balance both, one will suffer. And
as I said in the beginning, that law is a jealous mistress. I'm sure you will have heard that on a number of occasions.
Yes, indeed. And I think Hewarding have really told me or shown me that, yes, it is really jealous, that because Hewarding really has taken up a lot of my time.
Yes.
And the amount of work and studies that I put in, sometimes when you see a C or a B on your grade, you think, Oh my gosh, on so many hours I have been studying, and you want to tell yourself, well, where did I go wrong? But the Lord has really shown me humility, one, and the need to be continuously learning.
Now, okay, the need to be continuously learning. I know you're someone that is very, very determined, always learning, but how has that transition been from working in the banking sector, energy sector, to being a student right through? Because you have obligations, not so?
Yes, indeed. I do have obligations. Like many of us, we have bills. I have a toddler, a young daughter.
And that is in itself another experience, because you being a full-time student now,
yes,
also have to deal with a toddler and study.
Yes.
What advice you have to young ladies who in your position that is juggling between being a mother and studying?
Well, certainly your support system is extremely important. So I have a very good support system. Of course, I don't try to take advantage of them, but I do depend on them a lot, and I'm very grateful for my support system. So certainly if you're trying to juggle both, ensure that you have the support, because of course this support is really temporary. I'm only studying for 2 years at Hewarding.
2 years seems like 5 years, right?
Actually, I do think that the 2 years have gone by really quickly. COVID especially has made it seem shorter.
Right.
And then my daughter actually is in my classes, because my classes are online, and she is there learning the law at 2 years old.
At 2 years old.
At 2 years old.
Yeah.
So that is the balance that I have to make as well, that she's there with me. Sometimes I'm studying and she's on my lap while I am studying. I actually used to read my law books to her until one of my girlfriends said, no, let her read normal books. But it's a sacrifice, and it's a sacrifice that you have to be willing to make. And well, when my daughter came into my life, she became my motivation. So, I mean, my advice to other people who are considering the same is, one, your support system, and two, think about the reason why you're doing it. Because there are times when you will want to give up. I can tell you there are many times that I want to give up on the law. And
you're wondering why you leave your good paying job to now fight up with this, and you're uncertain about what will happen in the future.
Indeed. I mean, most recently we had the article in the papers about lawyers doing working taxi. Yeah. So, I sit and I think about that for myself as well, that, I left a really good job, and I'm going to go out there. Do I have to work taxi as well, or what does the future really hold for me? Yeah. So I just have to cross my fingers and hope that someone,
Don't worry, I'm sure people listen. I'm sure you have the skill set and the mindset to achieve and to actually get into a good position. Now, let us take a break, and then when we come back, we will discuss more on your journey. Sure. You are watching Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. And welcome back to Strictly Legal. You are watching a great show on WESN Content Capital, and with me, my guest, Corene Procope, who is a chartered accountant and aspiring attorney. Corene, as we were discussing before the break, as you know, you would have entered Hewarding prior to the pandemic, not so?
Indeed.
And of course, in Hewarding, as one would know, who would have experienced it, is very rigorous. You always have classes, you always have, it's a training, so you are training to be an attorney. Now, the pandemic came. What was your thoughts at that point in time when the pandemic came, and knowing that you have a certain timeline to achieve certain things?
Well, so I think going into Hewarding with the pandemic, of course, it's online schooling. One of the apprehensions would have been, so in year one, we have the child advocacy course. So one of our apprehensions was that we wouldn't have that face-to-face advocacy style of training that we would have encountered in year one. But I would say that we would have most recently concluded our child advocacy class, which was conducted online, and there really was not any grave disparity that would have, really supported our fares going into it. It really was a seamless and very realistic experience. So that was one of my major fears, but it was not.
But the face-to-face interaction, particularly when you're doing trial advocacy, it's to be in a courtroom setting, have the trial judge there, who's the lecturer, and being able to interact with your peers. Do you miss that?
Yes, yeah, I mean, you miss the interaction with your peers, but I mean, when we think about what we are preparing for in the future, virtual hearings might be a reality in the future, even if the pandemic, is no longer with us. We have seen the effectiveness of virtual hearings. We have seen how well it is working in some instances. So I guess Hewarding really has placed us or positioned us well for that eventuality.
And virtual hearings, you could be anywhere once you have a good background. I know a lot of persons, what they do, they put on the virtual background, so you could be on the beach and in court, right?
I don't know about that.
Because you have a background that looks like an office.
Indeed, right?
Yes. So I think it's a step in the right direction in terms of the trajectory in which the judiciary is moving with technology. And sometimes I think, with the pandemic, it can be a good thing. To some extent, because it allowed us to embrace technology sooner than later.
Yes. I totally agree.
So you have been also, as you said, you did your LLB at ILAS.
Yes. So I did it through ILAS from the University of London. So yes, the ILAS experience. I recall when I wanted to do the LLB. I contacted a friend of mine and she said, honestly, you need to go to ILAS. You are a very structured person and you will get the structure that you need. And yes, I of course, I can't compare other institutions because I haven't attended those institutions, but I would say that ILAS really contributed to my success through the LLB. They really provide good guidance and whatnot. So yes, so I did take the ILAS route, as some people call it.
And you would have participated in mooting?
Yes, so I did so there was this tertiary education debating, and this is something I would say to a lot of persons who are thinking about law, really try to get yourself really involved in the law. Try to do debating, try to get involved in mooting and those sort of things, because that debating experience which I got through ILAS because of the TTSEC, they had a tertiary education competition. It really did give me that confidence and really helped hone some skills that really assisted me even at Hewarding, because when you get to Hewarding, they throw you in the lions then. Yes. You are called upon to speak, you are called upon to present, those sort of things. So it really prepared me for that experience, because doing an external LLB, you really just behind a computer, paperwork, you're not really getting that compared to UE perhaps.
Now I think you're being very humble when you said with the mooting. I'm sure you would have excelled in the mooting competition. Tell us more about what that entailed, and which senior counsel came to you and said you did an excellent job. Come on. Stop holding back.
Okay, yes, so our team, we made it to the finals, both areas back to back. Of course, we did not succeed, but we were the runner-ups in both years.
Well, that's success. That's good.
And the first year, Martin Daly, senior counsel, he was the head judge for the competition, and he came up to me after and told me, he was really impressed with my skills. So, to him, it probably was just you commending somebody, but to me, it really left a mark, because, it really gave me that motivation to go further. Because there were moments that I did say that I wanted to stop at the LLB, because Hewarding felt like an elusive goal. And
not many external students actually get into Hewarding.
Yeah, not many. In our year, I think there was about 7 or 8 of us that year.
Yeah.
So Hewarding felt like an elusive goal. And I said that I will have to continuously prolong the London route if I have to go LPC or BPTC, because I did not want to leave my job.
Right.
the irony.
And then you eventually did.
Exactly. So, so it really did give me the motivation to go further. And I was really grateful for that feedback till today.
And I'm told, well, from what I understand, you lecture as well,
yes.
law?
Yeah. Well, I used to lecture law, then when the pandemic came. So I currently only lecture finance and accounting.
Right, and that itself is a balance as well.
Yes, it is, of course, because you have to prepare for classes. As I mentioned, well, I have a toddler, so with COVID, daycares are not open, so she's there with me. So sometimes, you're speaking in your lecture and she's in the background talking.
I think they understand, because a number of, sometimes even in ordinary schools, students, siblings will just show up on the computer and it's like, okay, what do I do? But I think everyone is accustomed to that. Now tell us, what sort of attorney, where do you see yourself after law school practicing?
Well, certainly I want to stick within the corporate industry. I want to be a corporate and commercial attorney, specifically specializing or working with insolvency, restructuring, securities, banking law, those sort of things, because I really want to be able to utilize my experience and my finance background.
Right.
So that is really where I would like.
But sometimes you may want to pursue one area, and then when you actually get called to the bar, you end up somewhere else.
Indeed, I mean, it's really where the chips may lie, as they say.
And what sort of experience have you had thus far in law?
So I did my in-service training last year with a law firm. That was an exceptional experience. It really far exceeded my expectations, because sometimes you hear persons do in-service training and they say, well, they didn't really do anything, especially in the COVID environment. So I would have had some colleagues who indicated that they were not working as hard and long as me. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I was open to the experience, because you really want, if you're doing a training or an internship, you want to get experience.
Yes.
You don't want to just say, well, I did it.
Because even in court experience, because I know one of the criteria is that you would have had to do court visits.
Yes.
And is that something that you can still do virtually?
I'm not sure. Well, during our trial advocacy classes, we actually had a judge who was our tutor, and he would have invited us to some of his court hearings, which was much appreciated, because I mean, I got to sit in with and saw even some senior counsels virtually. Yes. So that was really exciting stuff. But I'm not sure if you can still do it. Mm-hmm. Hopefully it perhaps is still available. I guess if the judiciary posts the links, that might be something that we could probably look.
And young people who want to get into law, what is your advice in closing? What is your advice to them? Is it worth it? Well, I mean, you're not a lawyer yet, but is it worth the journey?
So, Rondell, I'll be honest, there are times where I want to give up, because it's a lot of work, I mean, people sometimes say to me, well, you have an educational background before, you should be fine. No, I started at ground zero.
Yes.
So my educational background probably only counts when I get out there, and I have to utilize it in some way. So merge the qualifications in some way. But the journey itself is the same. It's difficult, it's challenging, but as I said before, you have to remember why you wanted to do it in the first place. Because when you get those moments of wanting to give up, that is the only thing that motivates you.
Good. Don't give up. I mean, it's simple. Don't give up and just stay the course. I mean, of course, your support system is important. And Corene, we are out of time. But I thank you for coming on this program to give up your journey, because I believe this is an outstanding journey that you would have gone through. I mean, we have known each other since kids. And I'm proud of you. I'm very proud of your achievements, your accomplishments. You came from a great family, a great home. And just continue doing what you're doing. Right? All the best. And guys, this is a wrap. You have been watching Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Of course, you can catch the episodes, past episodes as well, on our online platform, WESN CC. And see you next for another episode. Good day and God bless.